In this video, I'm going to have a look at the first game in Irving Chernev's book, Logical Chess. It's a classic published in the 1950s, written by our man Irving Chernev, who was born in the Russian Empire in 1900, died in 1981, and was a national master who wrote quite a lot of books before the age of computer analysis. Just a couple of days ago, I came across Chess Vibes on YouTube and noticed that he had made videos about the games in Chernev's book. And so that inspired me to dust off the book, if Kindle books do collect dust, and go through the games with my man on Chess Vibes. You can access the complete first game on Google here using this link. And it's between von Schever and Teichmann, and it was played in Berlin in 1907. So what I'm going to do now is show you the first game on Lichess. I'll talk you through it fairly briefly. So here we go with the Gioco Piano. And at this point, Chernev says this is all very well, but it blocks the knight to c3 move, which is the best move in his opinion for the knight. But of course, white is preparing for d4. White has sensibly castled away from the queen. We then get d6. Now there's that move. Black moves his bishop back. Now this is a premature attack according to Chernev, because white has not yet finished development. So development before attack, development before tactical maneuvers. What is the idea of this? We can see this a4 move here. Chernev's comment is it's a tricky move, but an illogical one. White threatens an attack on the bishop by a5. The bishop here is trapped if black does not avoid this situation. And if then bishop takes a5, d5 strikes at the knight here. And if the knight moves away, then the bishop will fall. The rook can take the knight and pick up a piece for a pawn. Rook takes a5, winning a piece. But should black, after a5 play, knight takes a5, the continuation, rook takes a5, bishop takes a5, queen to a4 check, nets white 2 pieces for a rook. Well, maybe it does among humans. However, Lichess has a nice response, which we will look at in a bit. So let's just carry on with this variation. This is a big weakness. This is what loses the game. So part of logical chess, part of the advice is that when you cast on the kingside, you want to keep your 3 pawns and your knight in place here in this structure for as long as possible. Because as soon as you move, you advance the pawn can't go back, and you create defensive weaknesses. And we'll see, this is the point, the main point that Chernev is teaching in this chapter. So this has created a game-losing weakness. But the response is not immediate, it would be premature. We haven't finished development yet. Another point that Chernev makes is that this kind of exchanges that open up lines will favor the side that has more development. And we can see here that the bishop is now looking directly at the king, and this becomes a decisive factor in black's victory. So what does black do? Black takes with the knight. That's a very nicely placed knight. And also this knight is tempting white to exchange. In my experience, weaker players, not knowing what else to do, will often go for a fairly lame exchange. It looks equal, but there's no reason to exchange knights here. Cheers. And in fact, when white does exchange, it gets black's queen onto a very nice square. and is also attacking this pawn. So white defends with knight to d2. And now comes the decisive move. Bishop sacrifice, opening up the king's file. Now, what's the next move for black? The next move for black, which you can see right down here, is coming straight in. Bang. Can't the pawn take? No, because of the opened up diagonal file. The A7, G1 diagonal. This pawn is pinned to the king. So there's only one move. Black picks up another pawn, moves back, brings in the knight, threatening checkmate here. So white has to respond in this way. We get another check. Again, that pawn was pinned. Now the pawn is not pinned. So if black's not careful, that queen could fall. So what Teichmann did in 1907, wasn't it, is take the pawn, at which point von Schäfer resigned. Now, it's here where our man who runs the Chess Vibes channel suggested that he needn't have resigned because of this move. Now, if the king takes that bishop, the queen can come in here, and whatever the king does, there is perpetual check, apparently. Let's say the king goes up there, which would be a big mistake because there is now an attack on the king. And so seeing this got me thinking, what else is there that Lichess could show us that goes against the analysis? Now, again, we have the benefit of computer analysis, which Chernoff didn't. And it's beside the point from the point of view of what Chernoff is teaching us, which is chess principles. But it is interesting to notice that there are other options for each player. So let's go back to the beginning now, and we'll turn on the analysis and check out some of these options. So you've got the gioco piano with this preparation for d4, which Chernoff doesn't like very much. Queen comes across, looking at the king, so there's the castle. d6, d4 comes in, the bishop retreats. Now, this is what Chernoff thinks is a premature attack, since the development has not been completed. White's development is not yet complete. We prepare, or rather, Teichmann prepares an escape square for his bishop. Now, at this point, what happens if... I think one of the things he said is fair enough, which is if we take with the bishop, the pawn can come down, and then if the bishop moves back, the knight falls, or conversely, if the knight disappears somewhere, the bishop falls. So all that is fair enough. But if we look at it the other way round, what happens if the knight takes the pawn? Chernoff recommended taking the knight with the rook. Then when we take back, Chernoff says now the queen comes in with check, and you can see Lichess's response here. And Chernoff says basically that the queen picks up the bishop. So after the king moves away, or perhaps the position is blocked, that's perhaps what Chernoff was thinking, the queen can pick up the bishop, and now it's a rook for a bishop and a knight, which favors white. However, this move here actually confounds that analysis. So let's go back and see that again. So we're going to bring in the pawn to a5, and we're going to take with the knight, wasn't it? And then we get this. the queen comes in, and now we have a pawn fork. And so Lichess recommends the queen takes, and you see black is a bit better here, a little bit better, and really white has not gained anything. In fact, white is down somewhat in material. White has one rook, one bishop, one knight for two rooks, a bishop and a knight. So wait a minute, am I miscounting? White has two knights, a rook and a bishop, and black has two rooks, a knight and a bishop. So black has a material advantage. So I thought that was interesting, that not everything suggested here by Chernev with today's computer analysis would apply to a full analysis. But it's kind of beside the point of what he's teaching. Let's also look at the situation down here after we have this situation. You can see Lichess recommends what our man on Chess Vibes was recommending. I don't know if he found it himself or checked with an engine. Now, I thought, without engine analysis, that black should simply sidestep. And now, because black is one move away here from very close to checkmate down here, and so white obviously has to play carefully. White doesn't want to take the bishop because the knight will then achieve checkmate straight away, bang, down here. So if the king sidesteps, we get back to equality down here. So this is, we just follow these moves. And you can see now it's equal, dead equal. Yeah, exactly equal. You get the queen down here, and the game can go on and on and on for several moves beyond. So while I think it's well worth studying Chernev for the principles he's teaching, especially about the Kingside castle and about not opening up the center if you are behind in development, not opening up lines, but focusing on development. These are very good principles to follow, but he does say that these principles are not 100%. You're not playing like a robot or an automaton. And I'm not talking about the high level AI stuff. I'm just saying you don't just bang out, you don't just follow these principles unthinkingly. They're there to be broken when necessary. But anyway, I hope you found that interesting. And I'm going to have a look through the rest of the games and follow through with the analysis by Chess Vibes. So it's a shout out to Chess Vibes, especially as he's inspired me to take up this book, Irving Chernev's Logical Chess. And if you want to check it out, you can check out the first section, the introduction and the first game free on Google. I'll put a link down below. Okay, folks, that's all from me, David Hurley of EasyChessTips.com. Until the next exciting pub chess bluffer chess analysis.